In the months following the initial response to the coronavirus pandemic, Vietnam has been among the standout countries in Southeast Asia in its handling of the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Following a shutdown of flights to and from the country as well as domestically, Vietnam also was one of the first countries to see flight resumptions in the region when it lifted travel restrictions back in late April. With domestic air travel looking to return back to normal, national carrier Vietnam Airlines is setting its sights for its post-coronavirus pandemic future, even as there is some growing cause of concern from amongst the airline officials as well as observers in the aviation industry that see the ambitious plans actually may not be as feasible in a time when most airlines, including Vietnam Airlines, are in recovery mode following the pandemic. Among the highlights of Vietnam Airlines' post-COVID recovery has included the restoration of the domestic network, which according to Vietnam Airlines has matched the number of scheduled flights compared to the same time period the year prior. With the flight resumptions, the Vietnamese government has also eased social distancing measures such as lifting the empty seat requirement on public transport, which includes airlines. The resumption of flights, along with the efforts of the Vietnamese government and people, have prompted the Vietnamese government to consider opening up air travel for international flights next month. The possibility of international flight resumptions is good news for airlines such as Vietnam Airlines. Though according to reports, the regions that will see flight resumptions to and from Vietnam will be dependent on the levels of coronavirus infections in the destination country. While there is a mixed reaction from the Vietnamese press as to the pressures on both the economic impact as well as the risk involved in reopening borders, Vietnam Airlines has been one of the more vocal airlines on this issue, with the airline's CEO Duong Tri Than was quoted in local media, the VN Express, stating, quote, "Vietnam Airlines is ready to resume flights as soon as the restrictions are lifted." The flight resumptions could happen within the next few months, if not next month, but Vietnam Airlines seems to be looking beyond the next few months and to the future few years from now. According to a report from VietnamNet, the airline revealed plans, to the surprise of some given the situation right now, that they are looking to accelerate the plan to purchase 50 aircraft worth an estimated 3.8 billion US dollars. Now, if you have been following Vietnam Airlines in the past, especially the last year, these plans were first reported as early as last summer. And in December, the Vietnamese government was requesting more information from the airline regarding the purchase, as Vietnam Airlines is actually a majority government-backed airline. For the 50 aircraft, the frontrunners for these purchases are the Airbus A321s and the Boeing 737 MAX. The plans to accelerate work to purchase new aircraft was followed by a bigger announcement by Australian carrier Qantas through its budget subsidiary Jetstar, which announced plans to exit its Vietnam joint venture Jetstar Pacific, which Vietnam Airlines currently holds a majority stake of around 70% in the carrier. With Jetstar's departure from the venture, Vietnam Airlines plans to revert and rebrand it back to its original name, Pacific Airlines, with Vietnam Airlines planning to take a much larger stake in the carrier and restructure the budget carrier to make it more profitable. However, with these ambitious plans, there is some, including some within the airline, that have raised alarm as to the current state of the airline and whether it is financially fit to carry out its ambitions. In a recent report by both Vietnam News and VN Express, Vietnam Airlines chief accountant Tran Tan Hien painted a much more bleak picture of the current state of the airline, saying that the national carrier's funds could be empty by August, with an estimated yearly loss for 2020 to be around 15 to 16 trillion Vietnamese dong, with the largest expenses going to parking the aircraft as well as issuing refunds for the passengers for canceled flights. With the airline looking to borrow around 4 to 12 trillion Vietnamese dong, Hien was quoted saying, "We are not asking for an investment, we will pay back this sum." Hien was also mentioning the urgency needed from the Vietnamese government, as he was quoted in Vietnam News saying, quote, "We need an official message from the government, who currently are the dominant shareholder occupying 86% of Vietnam Airlines stake, about the availability of a support package so that our partners can be confident in the corporation's post-pandemic recovery." Hien also added that, quote, "The government's financial support is also the way the government protects its investment in Vietnam Airlines." In line with these developments, Vietnam Airlines has been looking to shed some of its assets, including selling a 49% share of its airline in Cambodia, Angkor Air, a joint venture with the Cambodian government, which owns the majority 51% share. That transaction was reported to be done in late April, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, which included the sale of around 5 A321s. For some, crisis is a bad thing, while others can see it as an opportunity, and it seems like Vietnam Airlines sees the mix of both perspectives, including from those within the airline. In terms of purchasing new aircraft during these times, there could be a good opportunity to get favorable aircraft prices through negotiating with Airbus or Boeing. Given the current conditions of the global aviation industry, Vietnam has been seen by both the European and aircraft manufacturers as opportunity for both businesses, especially with airlines in the country, including Vietnam Airlines making large orders for aircraft, as Vietnam is one of the more bright spots of the aviation industry globally. However, with the uncertainty, it seems like Vietnam Airlines is making its bets and gambling its future, which could see another crisis in Vietnam or in Asia that could threaten its financial situation. As for its plans with Pacific Airlines, it will be a daunting task to compete against the likes of Vietjet, which has become the more dominant budget airline in the country, in part due to a much larger fleet along with a local management, which I believe Vietnam Airlines is eyeing to make those kind of changes for Pacific Airlines and its future. So with that said, what do you think? Is Vietnam Airlines biting more than it can chew, or is the current crisis a golden opportunity to develop the airline with its future plans? I definitely would love to hear your take on this. With that said, this has been Flights in Asia, highlighting the news and updates from the aviation and travel scene in the Asia Pacific. If you like this video, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Once again, thank you for watching and have a great day.